Well, I have a cup of chamomile tea, a large glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and a fucking nutty. This is a little waffle. Episode 8, I think. Hello, I'm Stacey Whittle. Welcome to my what is it? This thing that we do. It's a podcast. I think it's a podcast where I talk about my geeky life, I suppose, and my crafting. It's been a couple of weeks. My hair has got even longer and bigger, and I'm not sleeping. Are you sleeping? I'm sure it's some sort of lockdown side effect. If any of you have got any tips that are more helpful, then do more exercise, which I think is the actual answer. Yeah, let us know what you're doing, but because the sleep thing is a thing. So I can't remember if last time I spoke to you, my cat had a stroke. My cat had a stroke. So not like he stroked me the way I stroke him, or anything. Yeah, like an actual neurological event. And I mention it only because he's wandering around, and if you hear a large noise, it's just that he's fallen over, which he does a lot. Bless him, as he gets used to his new situation. I got nothing much to tell you apart from that. We're still in lockdown here. Things are easing up. Today's the 9th of July. So pubs and hairdressers and all that sort of things, and some cafes and things are starting to reopen now. I did actually go for a coffee yesterday morning with my friend. We were the only people in there having a coffee with a view of the sea, and actually it was so weird to be doing something really normal. It was a really odd thing. Like we felt like we were doing something really naughty, but we were just having a cup of coffee and a scone and looking at the sea. So yeah, it was bizarre, but not in any mad dash to do anything else really. But it's strange times indeed. But what is good about these strange times is that finally I got my 2008D situation sorted out. So this is how many I read this week. So starting from 2176 with the awesome Simon Fraser Hershey cover, to 2182 Neil Gouge Survival Geeks cover. That's where I've got to. I want to talk about that a bit now. I still have this many to go to get properly caught up. So that will be 2183 to 2188. Sorry, 2189, which is this week's. And I have no gaps, none. I've really enjoyed reading my 2008Ds. What I can tell you is some of the strips make more sense than others. Some I just had to bail on. I think such is the nature of the beast. This doesn't mean that they're bad strips either. It just means that they're not as easy to follow halfway through as some others are. So I'll give you a quick run. I'm not going to talk about every single thing and every single one, but we did have Dread has been fine. Dread has been really easy, accessible. Dread's Dread, isn't he? So there's not anything to worry about there. Skip Tracer by James Peaty and Paul Marshall. That's been a bit harder to get into. I've read them all and I've sort of followed it, but not really, if you know what I mean. The art's beautiful. So I'm hoping that that'll make more sense as I keep going, but at the minute I'm a little bit bamboozled. Survival Geeks. So this was a strip that was running when I was reading 2008 before, and this has been the final installment, and I tell you what, I've loved every second of it. The art's fantastic. It was laugh out loud funny. I love anything that nicely takes the mickey out of geeks, by which I don't mean the Big Bang Theory, which I think just actually takes the piss out of geeks. Not like, I'm one of you and it's okay for me to have a little laugh at us, rather than I'm over here and I'm laughing at you, because it's not the same thing. Like Spaced, you know, or I'm trying to think of who else does it well. This does it well. So it was called Crisis of Infinite Nerds, and I just loved it. I just loved it. There was Star Trek references, the Star Wars references. There was a reference to the kids show Nightmare that made me laugh out loud. Doctor Who references. Just absolutely wonderful, and actually surprisingly easy to follow after a couple of years out. So I don't know how many installments I've missed while I was on maternity leave. But that was really easy to pick up, and it's finished now, and it was fantastic, and I really loved it. What else did we have? Aquila, however we're saying that, bailed on that one. Just, that was a strip that was running before and I enjoyed, but I just could not get my head around it. Absolutely. I did have a look at the artwork because I'm a huge fan of Paddy Goddard, who's the artist on that strip. But I just was impenetrable. So yeah, what can you do? You cannot be too upset about an anthology comic if you that's been running a while, if you can't pick up every strips, you know what's happening straight away. It just doesn't work like that, does it? And the final one was, this was the first episode of Hershey. So this is Rob Williams and Simon Fraser, and although I missed so this was part 2, sorry, and this is part 2. Although I missed her actual death, and I was quite shocked to find out that she died, I mean, that totally got by me. So maybe I think some people might have were a bit unhappy about seeing her come back, felt like they'd been cheated a little bit, which I could understand, but I did not, because I had not known that she had cocked it. So so for me there was no real feeling of that, and I just really enjoyed it. I love Simon Fraser's artwork. I love his dynamic storytelling. So I love when artists play with panel layout. This is quite, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, this is quite a, that, oh, isn't it good? That is quite a tame one as we go on. Some of the panel layouts are just so exciting. Look at this, breaking all the rules. No panel borders. Craziness. Oh, I love it. Really like when artists play with panel layout and sort of dynamic storytelling. I think it really adds something. And also when they do the standard 9x9 grids, that's saying something as well. I find page layouts very interesting. Is that the nerdiest thing I've ever said? I don't think it is, you know. But I do. I find panel layouts exciting. I think that add to a story. I think they can really take away from a story. I think they can add a character. You know, you might get a character who continuously breaks through the borders, and it's like representation of his character or something like that. And you get some characters that just won't ever break the rules like it. So interesting. I like to see what people do with it. So yeah, I think was that all the stories that were in all of these ones? Yeah. Oh, so in this one, so this is 2178. There was a start of a new Judge Dredd called Chimsky's Law, by Kenneth Newman, and art by PJ. Colours by Quentin Winter, who's new to me, and letters by the amazing Annie Parkhouse, who's just fantastic. I haven't seen any of PJ's art for a little while, with being on previously mentioned maternity leave. And oh my god, I'm sorry about the glare there, but it just, look at Mega City, it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. And I love this short story. I love this Chimsky's Law. I thought it was really funny and really well done and really familiar, but in a good way. Like, not that I've read the story before, but that it wasn't like completely out of the scope of what would happen in Mega City 1. Sorry, I'm reading it again, so that's terrible, isn't it? But yeah, really enjoyed that. And I think that's all the stories. So 2182, is that the last one I read? Yeah. And that finished, I think that was the last installment of Survival Geeks. And then we saw The Order come back. I'm not quite sure what's happening in The Order. I couldn't really get my head around it. I love John Burns' artwork. Isn't that Simon Fraser and John Burns both back, and they both did Who's Your What's It? What they call him in the gun? Oh, Nikolai Dante. Brain. Yeah, so I love his artwork, but I found that a little bit difficult to get into as well. I think again it's just that I didn't know what was happening. Sometimes occasionally do I miss those recaps at the start of strips. Maybe for like a reader coming back, asterisk Thog's note, see previous issue. I do not find that helpful. It's helpful in the way that you know it's been mentioned before. That's it really. But yeah, really enjoyed Hershey, really enjoyed The Dread, and really enjoyed Survival Geeks. That was the absolute standout for me, and I loved it, and I really like this Chimsky Law. Judge Dredd got some really lovely covers. I love this one. I love a bit of Dredd on the cover. There's nothing better than a Dredd cover. Look at him, man. At his age, that's Jake Lynch as well. About all the wonderful. Which else was the other one I really liked? I really like this one, even though I'm not sure what's happening in the story. I would pick this up on the newsstand if I wasn't already. It's fantastic. Who's that? Dylan. Oh, Cliff Robinson, of course. It's colours by Dylan too. So yeah, I am going to do more in-depth and proper reviews of the progs once I get up to date. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that, a weekly little sort of 10-minute 10-15 minute thing. She says, ha ha ha, when I get up to date. But I've still got a little while. This is my plans this weekend. So yeah, this is an all ages takeover. Interesting. It's really nice to have 2000 AD back in my life. Actually, it's been a big miss, and I've really enjoyed having it back. And well, I have now that it's all sorted out and I've got all the copies. It was a bit of an arse before that. Anyway, that's that. What else have I been reading? Oh, and because I was on the comics kick, I have ordered a few things from page 45, so hopefully they'll be here in the next couple of days. So next time I talk to you, I should have a couple more comic-y things to talk about, which will be nice. I haven't read a great deal else that hasn't been for work. So I read for work this book, which is not in any way SFF fantasy or paranormal or urban romance, which is completely outside my usual bailiwick. But this book by Elizabeth Strout, called Olive Kitteridge, is absolutely wonderful. It was a Pulitzer Prize winner. I'll read you the back. Olive Kitteridge, indomitable, compassionate and often unpredictable, a retired school teacher in a small coastal town in Maine. As she grows older, she struggles to make sense of the changes in her life. She is a woman who sees into the hearts of those around her, their triumphs and tragedies. A penetrating, vibrant exploration of the human soul. Olive will make you laugh, nod in recognition, wince in pain, and shed a tear or two. I actually think that's a really shit blurb. Actually, this is a book that deals with really heavy issues with a really light touch. So it talks about suicide, talks about death, talks about severe anorexia, it talks about the aging process, it talks about the effect that has, it talks about parenting, it talks about happiness, and it's melancholy and bittersweet, and it's one of the most beautifully written things I've ever read. It's absolutely wonderful. It's not a happy book, although it's hopeful, and it's one of the few times where an older woman, a woman in her 60s, is the protagonist that I've read, and that was really interesting as well. And I've absolutely loved taking this apart chapter by chapter with my book group at work. It's been such a wonderful experience and such a wonderful book, and that I wouldn't normally talk about it on here, but it really, you know, when you read something and it just lives in your head for a while. Oliver's still in my head at the moment, and I don't think she's going anywhere fast. And so I did want to mention it, that this beautiful book is out there in the world that I did not know about, because it's outside of my usual comfort zone, and it's really wonderful. And kind of the point of a book group, I think, is that you read something that you wouldn't ordinarily read. So next up for book group, we are reading Rebecca, which is not outside my body. That is very much in my comfort zone. It's a real favourite of mine. I love the film, I love the book. I have some beautiful Tula Lotte artwork prints that she did of the Rebecca film. That's the cat, sorry. It's just a fantastic read, and it's sort of gothic and mysterious and wonderful. I love it. So, but after that, we're going to read The Shape of the Water by Guillermo, I can never say his name, Guillermo del Toro. And so that's really interesting. Go from Olive Kitteridge to Rebecca to The Shape of the Water via Breakfast at Tiffany's and The Mysterious Affair Styles and The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. It's been a real roller coaster of reading styles, and it's been really fun. So yeah, I'll keep you posted about Rebecca, which we've just started. And actually, I am both reading it and listening to it. So the Audible production of Rebecca is performed by the actress Anna Massey, and it is unbelievably good. It is one of the best audible performances that I've listened to, and it's just her. It's not a full cast. It is just Anna Massey reading it, and it is sublime. She's amazing, and you can't even call it narrating because it's a performance. It's wonderful. So if you are looking for anything in the audio where you want to get started with, I really recommend it. It's an absolutely amazing production. So there you go. So I've been listening to that as well. What else? I have only just started, so I'm only like 2 pages in to a book called Wakenhurst by Michelle Paver, and I've read a couple of her books, and they're creepy AF. I tell you, creepy as fuck. And I listened to one on audiobook, and I couldn't sleep for like 2 nights. It's proper creepy. Can't remember what it was called now, and it's in my phone that I'm talking to you on, so maybe I'll put it in the blog when I do my blog post. So I've got nothing to tell you about that one, because I'm like, literally just, it was 99 pence on a Kindle deal, so I thought, well, I'll try that, and that's as far as we've got. So I'll let you know next time. But I did talk to you briefly last time about the Rivers of London book, which I've written down the author and the narrator this time. It's Ben Aronovich is the author of the Rivers of London series, and there's quite a lot of books in that series now. There's a lot. And the actor, the performer, or narrator, whichever term you prefer, I think narrator's not good enough for these performances. It's Cobner Holdbrook Smith, and he's another one who's amazing. Is his tone of his voice. Anyway, it's very good. So this is about PC Grant, who is a policeman in the Met, but discovers there's a sort of magic department and he becomes the first person to apprentice there for a long, long time, and he gets to live in this amazing sauna place called the Folly, and they go after sort of supernatural criminals with all sorts of twists and turns and revelations on the way. And I really, really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed it when I read it a few years ago. I've very much enjoyed listening to the audio, in no small part to Cobner Holbrook Smith. So it's another one I'd recommend. And that is definitely, yeah, sort of urban fantasy. Do we still say urban fantasy? Is that still a thing? Because I think that is what it is, and it's, you know, sort of set in modern day, and there's a few really good twists and turns to this one that I did not see coming, and I'm really frightened to spoil this one because I don't want to give anything away, because if you decide to read it, then it's a perfect blend of sort of police procedural, don't you know, and light urban fantasy, which I don't mean like light as in it's not. I mean that it's not overwhelming. It's not like the Dresden Files, which is just utter. It's like everything is magic, you know. This is kind of grounded with the being still in the police force and having that sort of steadying element with the sort of paranormal stuff around the outside. I'm doing a really shit job of talking about this. I do apologise, but I will remind you that I haven't had a lot of sleep. Anyway, it's a really good book. I've read the second one, which I think is called Moon Over Soho, but that's as far as I've got in that series, and I don't know what's put us off reading any more of it, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe I was distracted by something else. There's so many books, isn't there? And I think when you get hooked into a series, you either get properly hooked, don't you? You don't like sort of pick up and put down a series, do you? You get properly invested. And I don't quite know why I haven't been entirely invested in it. You know, I'm such a completist. I like to finish series. I like to read the next stuff. So I don't know what it is about this one that's not grabbing us, but I did enjoy it. But maybe that was it. I just enjoyed it, and that was it. I wasn't completely overwhelmed or in love with anybody enough that I desperately wanted to read the next book. Such is life. But I'll give Moon Over Soho another try, I think, because it's been a good long time since I read it. So we'll see. It's not high up on my list of things, mind, to be honest. What else have I been listening to? I listened to a Val McDermid book called Deadbeat, which I have also read several times. It's one of my favourite of her series, set in the 90s with a female PI, Kate Brannigan, and set in Manchester. And I really like this series. It's light, much lighter in tone than our other books, which are often they can be very gory and heavy with sort of intense descriptions of murder and torture and stuff, which I think is important for the story she's telling, but sometimes it's a little hard going, and I can't cope with anything like that at the minute. Sorry, dry throat. I really can't cope with anything like that. But this is light enough with still being meaty. I like the word meaty. So it's the story of Kate Brannigan, a PI, and she has a rock journalist boyfriend, and she's sent to investigate the death of, or the murder of a rock legend's muse. His writing partner is murdered, and she's sent in to help find the killer, and that goes off on a load of twists and turns as well, and it's really good. It's really good. And I did not guess the killer. I thought I had, but I'd guessed the red herring. I think writers should be smug when you guess their red herring, because they've done their job, haven't they? Yeah, really enjoyed it. It's very of the 90s as well, I think. So it's it really feels rooted there. So if you're of a certain age, it's nice nostalgia as well. Yeah, I really liked it. So book-wise, that's all I've been listening to, but I do want to mention that I've been the Geek Syndicate, which is one of the first podcasts, geek podcasts that I started. It was the first geek podcast I started listening to years and years and years and years ago. And then I stalked them and bullied them into being my friends. And then they let me do a podcast on their website for a long time. So my old podcast, Small Press Big Mouse, was hosted by the Geek Syndicate, and they were so encouraging, overwhelmingly encouraging and supportive, and always have been. But they've been branching out into this video format, and it is so nice to see their faces. So it's exactly the same format as their audio podcast, and they do rip the audio and put it out still as an audio podcast, so then you can choose. And I've chosen to watch those boys because they're hilarious. So I think they've done 2 or 3 video versions of the podcast now, and Barry's doing actual editing and stuff, and he's putting trailers in and clips and like pictures of books and all that shit I will never do. Still haven't worked out the editing. No. It's on my list after Moon Over Soho. So yeah, if you're looking for something, and you're not already watching the Geek Syndicate, because you should be, it's really lovely to see those boys' faces. So I've been watching and listening to that. And on that vein, I also have been watching my lovely friend Jimmy Aquino, who does the very, 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 very long running podcast Comic News Insider, has also been doing some Zoom podcasts with Heidi McDonald from The Beat. And they've done some really great ones. They've done ones covering The Evil Dead, Flash Gordon, and then they asked me to come and be a guest on the one to talk about Willow, the movie Willow, with Warwick Davies and Val Kilmer. And it was dead exciting. I put all my face on and everything, full makeup. I don't even do that for you guys, but yeah, it was for my American audience, as my friend Connor said. It was really fun. So that was me and Heidi and Jimmy and John Hosh. And it was so good to talk about a film that's a big favourite of mine. I also watched that recently as well, so I could talk about it again. And it just is still brilliant. I still love that film. But if you're interested in what I've got to say about it, then you can go and listen to Comic Beat Insider, and I'll put links to all of that in the description box or / in the blog, whichever I remember to do. It's really fun. It was really, really fun to geek out with other geeks, not the ones that live in my head or in my phone, but like actual real life people. It's exciting. I really liked it a lot. So thank you, Jimmy, for letting me come and geek out with you. It was really fun. It was really fun. What else? So yeah, that's everything that I've listened to and everything that I've read. If this was still my audio podcast, I'd put a little musical break in here to give you a break from the incessant sound of my voice. But unfortunately, no, I didn't. But what I will do is just have a little glass of wine. Not the whole glass. But I will start to talk to you about the things that I've watched. First up, the Great Farscape rewatch continues. And we watched 2 really important episodes, I feel, in series 3. And spoiler alert. Oh, God. Spoiler alert. We watched the one where John dies. Oh, the husband cried and cried. It was. I was a bit emotional, but I'd seen it before, so I knew it was coming, and I think that really took the sting out of it. I think the difference watching it the first time is that I was so sad for John, but this time I was really sad for Erin. It was all about Erin, because I'm half in love with her myself. That episode, it's just the cast is so good. At this point in the series, you've got half the cast living on Talon, the gunship, and half the cast living on Moya, the original ship, and Talon's mother. So you've got this so one episode will be set on Moya, and then the next episode will be set on Talon. So you get this really interesting dynamic with the storytelling. And there's just some outstanding episodes in the series. We watched Scratch and Sniff, which is the one with Ben Browder's actual wife in it, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that episode. And the next episode, so then the next one goes to Talon. That's the one where the old ancient aliens come back because they think John's misused the wormhole technology that they gave him, and that's the one that ends in disaster. And the one after that, where Erin's fallen apart and she's just like drunk and living in a scummy hotel. Oh, my heart. But I think because I knew stuff was coming, it was much easier for me. So I found the next episode when we dealt with Erin's grieving was so much harder than the one where he actually died. But the Dutton struggled, which was dead cute. Oh, he's canny. Obviously, then after that, we get the episode with the Looney Tunes, and it was better than I remembered. How amazing is that? I remember it being this amazing episode, and it was better than I remembered. I said it before, and I'm sorry I'm saying it again, but Farscape really stands up as outstanding science fiction, outstanding space opera, outstanding makeup, outstanding effects. Now, from what I remember, series 4 gets a little bit dicey, but this series 3, is outstanding. It's absolutely outstanding. And I think I tweeted, oh no, wait while I geek out again. It's so unexpected in this podcast, but I did tweet about it, said that. So there's never been a better villain than Scorpius. And guess who liked my tweet? Anthony Simcoe, doggo. I screenshotted and everything like a really sad loser. By which I mean the coolest person you've ever met, obviously. Cool. Very cool. Anyway, really loving watching Farscape again. We also watched a film called The Guest. When it finished, me and the Duds had a massive argument about it. What was the last film you argued about it? Talk to me, tell me. So this film, if you haven't seen it, is Dan Stevens. He is the Beast in the live action Beauty and the Beast. He was in Downton, and he's just been in something else big. Fuck it, I can't remember. Anyway, it's him. And I didn't really recognise the rest of the cast, I'll be honest, but so it's him. And it starts off, the first half of the film is absolutely incredible. It starts off with a grieving family whose son has been killed. He's in the army and he's killed in war. And Dan Stevens comes and says that he comes to the grieving family and says he's just come out of the army and he just wanted to come and pay his respects, and he'd been with him when he died, and he promised he would go and tell them how much he loved them and stuff. And there's something off about him, and he can't work out what it is. And then the mother doesn't want him to go and encourages him to stay with them for a while. And then there's this creepy tension that builds up and builds up and you really don't know which way it's going to go. And the second half of the film is shit. Which my husband would disagree with, because he thought it was excellent and funny, and it turns into a sort of twisted, sort of dark comedy, I suppose. But the switch over, to me, wasn't smoothly enough done to make it work. And I was so angry when the film finished, because I felt like I'd been conned out of this amazing film that I'd started to watch. And I hadn't read anything about it. I didn't know anything about this film. Nothing. And I sat down to watch it, and I was so on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, what's going on? This something so great. And just to have it smashed to smithereens. That didn't make sense. It does get his top off at one point, which nearly rescued it. But not enough. I'm really disappointed. And I can't remember the last time that happened where you're so into something and you think it's so good and you just living every second for it to be ruined. Have you seen it? Well, we can do a poll. Which one of you agree with me? Which one of you agree with the Duts? What a proper argument. It was like, yeah, it's because of this. And I'm like, I understand what they said it's doing, but that's they've told us, they haven't showed us. This has just gone, it's just stupid. It makes no logical sense. None. We had a very similar argument after I watched Mad Max for the first time. The first one. This doesn't fucking make any sense. And it got really rich. Nearly cancelled for a wedding. But that film makes no fucking sense. None. I liked Fury Road. And I haven't seen the second one. Or any of the other ones. I've seen the very first one and then Fury Road, and that's it. Didn't make any fucking sense. And this film didn't make any fucking sense. And I just don't like that. The only thing worse than that is to be boring. I kind of liked having the fight, you know, afterwards. It was fun. So at least it wasn't boring. The younger cast, so there were sort of teenagers in it, they were exceptional. The acting was great. It was the storyline that I had an issue with. So yeah, if you've seen this, I don't want to tell you any more than that, because if you haven't seen the film, you might go Team Duts and you might absolutely love it. So I'm not going to tell you the bit because that would be wrong. But if you have seen it, I wonder if you'll agree with me or if you'll agree with Duts. Let me know. I'm glad I watched it though, because I think that first half was just like a masterclass in tension-driven psychological thriller. You know, like the Terminator, not Terminator 2, Terminator. Like how you're filled with tension from almost the off in that film. Like you are filled with tension and it does not go until the final seconds of that film. That they could have done that with this film. They didn't. Oh, anyway, I'm getting cross again. What else did I watch? I'm just checking my notes here. Guest, Farscape, Frozen 2, psychological thriller, Frozen 2 came out on Friday on Disney Plus, and I have watched it 3 times and not with any children. Songs are fabulous. And I quite liked the song. I quite liked Frozen. I thought it was all right. It wasn't my favourite. I loved that twist at the end when none of the princesses were saved by a prince. They saved each other, and I loved that twist, and I thought it was really, really inspiring. But the film I thought was okay. Frozen 2, however, it's really exciting. I think it's more magical. It's definitely more magical, and the music is very magical. And there's one song which I'm obsessed with that sounds like it should have been in Eurovision. It should have won Eurovision. So I really liked it. The animation's lovely, the songs are lovely. It's just Disney at its very best, I think. Really, really is. I might watch it again this weekend. I might actually, yeah. So I've only got good things to say. I have nothing bad to say about Frozen 2. Not one thing. Funny you say, what did you talk about? I talked about The Guest and Frozen 2, and guess which one got the better review? The other thing, I watched over the last 2 nights, as recommended by the Geek Syndicate, was Staged, which is starring Michael Sheen and David Tennant, Georgia Tennant, and Anna. Oh Christ, I can't remember Michael Sheen's wife's name. And it is set as if they are playing themselves. David Tennant's made it known quite a few times that they are not. They are fictionalized versions of themselves. It's shot as if it's been almost entirely filmed via Zoom, and that's how they're talking. They're rehearsing a play over Zoom during lockdown, and it's such an amazing, that like 15-minute episodes. There's some wonderful guest stars, including Judi fucking Dench. It is so good. It is so funny. It is so well done, and it's this perfect time bubble of what we're going through now. There's shots of the empty streets. There's shots of clapping on the London Bridge or Tower Bridge, whichever fucking bridge it is. And then this brilliant narrative about things that we're all going through, like one of them's drinking too much, one of them hasn't changed his clothes, tempers flare because of the situation, worrying about your neighbours, all with this amazing humor, laugh out loud humor, and you've got to watch for the credits as well, because there's a thing that they do with the credits which cracked me up almost the most. And it's going to take about an hour of your life, and you'll thank me and the Geek Syndicate for letting you know about it if you haven't seen it already. It's wonderful, and it's on the iPlayer. So yeah, watch Staged. And the only other thing that I've been watching, and I've been watching it a lot, I mean a lot, not just me doing it as well. I think this is something to do, well, it's not really, because it's very in my nature. But anyway, the Duts, right, he bought me the box set of Murder, She Wrote, the whole lot, 12 seasons and 4 telemovies, and I'm pretty sure a making of documentary. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a massive Columbo fan. I love Columbo so much. I also have the box set of that as well. That is not 12 seasons. That's not 287 episodes though. You know what I'm saying? We've been watching Murder, She Wrote a lot. From the beginning, season 1, episode 1, we're up to season 3 now. Oh, the guest stars, man. The guest stars are amazing. I just watched an episode with Erin Moran and Hayley fucking Mills. Jeff Conaway, David Ogden Stiers as well. I watched an episode that had Angela fucking Lansbury and David Ogden Stiers, like Cogsworth and Mrs. Potts, in the same episode, with Jeff Conaway, who was not in Beauty and the Beast, but there is some quality guest star action, and no mistake. These early series, I'm not shitting you, are so good. They're so well plotted. There's not all of them, because there's a couple that are done in London with their English cousin. Anyway, moving on from that. Apart from the odd, very few silly episodes, they are so good. They're like Columbo-esque with the tight plotting and the red herrings and the twists and turns. So good. Just so good. As you get later on in the series, I think it becomes very, very formulaic, and they lose an edge. Yes, it has edge. Murder, She Wrote has edge. And do you know what? It's perfect telly at the minute, really, with, you know, mental health isn't always great here for either of us, and we're not sleeping, and sometimes you just want fucking Murder, She Wrote and a big cup of tea, you know? So if you were feeling any of those lockdowny feelings, I recommend very highly taping a load of Murder, She Wrote, which are on all day Saturday and Sunday on one of the goddamn telly channels, and like doing yourself a favour and sitting down with a bit of Jessica Fletcher. I did spend several hours yesterday searching for Murder She Wrote merchandise. I really want a Cabot Cove t-shirt. I just want a Cabot Cove t-shirt. There's not that many of them. I don't want Angela Lansbury's face on. I don't want that one that says, I did it, I murdered them all, although that's funny. I want something more, what's the word, enigmatic, you know? Like, if you see he's wearing it, if you know, you know. But it's not Jessica Lansbury's giant head on my tits. Oh, well, that might be. Anyway, Cabot Cove t-shirt. It's on my list of things to try and track down. So yes, that's everything I've been watching. I've been talking a long time and I haven't even got to the knitting yet. There's fucking loads of that, so I'm going to stop tangenting and just get to the shit. So if you're leaving me now because you're not here for the knitting and spinning, thank you for listening to this rambling mess of a podcast. I really appreciate it. If you fancy subscribing, there's a button there apparently. It did absolutely make my day to get 50 subscribers over the last week, which honestly I was so excited about. I really suspected that the only person that would watch it would be me to see if I said something, you know, that I could get arrested for. But it's really nice that some people are watching it, and I'm really grateful. Thank you. So if you're leaving us now, I'll see you next time. And if you're staying, knitting. So let me show you some shit, right? Look at this sock. Oh, isn't it beautiful? There is only one of them right now, but yeah, this is not a sock that has a pattern. I don't know if I showed you it last time. This was part of a mini skeins set that I got from Holst yarn, which is, I think it's from Denmark or one of those Scandinavian countries. And if you get a 500-gram cone, which is enough for 2 large 4-ply jumpers, it's very, and I've got some left, so the baby would have some baby jumpers. Batteries by 30 quid, which I think is amazing for two jumpers, 3 and 2.5 jumpers. So yeah, very good value. This here is it is fondant fibre, who's an indie dyer, and I just absolutely love her stuff. And the colours really aren't coming up very well. Oh, that's better. Absolutely beautiful. I made Ari a cardigan out of this, and so I only had a little bit left over, so I decided to make, sorry about the crinkling now, grabbing it out of my bag. So this is how much I've got left. So I thought I'd make shorty socks with it because it's too beautiful just to sit. It's got some sort of sheen to it as well, which is beautiful, but I can't remember the composition of it, but it's so beautiful. All of her stuff that she dyes is beautiful, and she has a shop which is just fondantfibre.co.uk, I think, but it's all of her stuff. I've had quite a lot of stuff from her, and it's all beautiful. And so this is just a sock I cast on, I think 64, 68 stitches. I did ribbon just on the instep. The instep is the top of your foot. People think it's this, that's your arch, but this is your instep. And so I just did some ribbon on here and just stocking stitch on the bottom, little heel flap and turn, and just 1 by 1 ribbon on the top. This yarn is quite a lot thinner than this one, so this is looking a bit gapey, but you know, it'll be fine. But yeah, so I've got really far in the second sock, but that's ongoing. So there. I have just finished knitting this hat. You can see I haven't, it's been washed and blocked. I love this pattern. This is the 3rd time I've knit this pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, with just a little double cable one side, and it's slouchy. It's like a mint green. I don't know if that's coming up on the not really, but like a minty green. This is West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, and it's really lovely. So yeah, this is the third time I've knit it. It comes in children's sizes and adult sizes, so I knit it for Ari when she was a newborn, and I knit me a matching one because I am that parent. And then I'll carry in a little sling with well matching hats on. And this is why the older children won't spend any time. The other thing I'm knitting at the moment, this is a sock pattern by Rain Drinkwater, who I met through the SFX forums a long time ago, and the yarn, sorry, crinkle crinkle, was given to me by another member of the SFX forums, Corinne the Princess. This is Knitting Goddess yarn. It's beautiful. It's like a pinky red, and it has a sparkle in it, if you can see. And this is it was a mystery pattern she did, so you got clues, and you can see it's heavily cabled with different patterns in each of these cable bubbles. So that's garter stitch, and then that's like a rib, and they're really lovely. And the pattern does go down into the, I've just done the heel flap and turn, and I'm just about to go down the foot. So when you download a pattern, you get each, like mystery clue 1, mystery 2, clue 3, but it is all there now. But I did it at the time, so knit it and waited for the next one coming out. And it's a lovely, lovely pattern, and I'm really enjoying it. But this has been sitting for a week at least now, possibly longer, because I have to really concentrate on the pattern, so I can't knit and watch telly or anything. So because that's usually where my knitting time is, in the evening when I'm watching Murder She Fucking Wrote with Dutton, that's just not getting worked on at the minute. But I really want to finish it because that's actually a gift, and I'd like the person it's going to have them eventually. So that's what I'm knitting at the moment. I've been doing quite a bit of spinning. This is oh, this was the most gorgeous thing to spin, and I wish you could feel it and smell it. It smells proper sheepy. This was a braid of South Down wool that I got from Hilltop Cloud. I think she has her own shop, and she also has a fantastic blog which helps you when you're spinning sort of work out how many meters that you've got without like measuring it all, which you just wouldn't do, would you? It's crazy. So it's a really good blog with all sorts of helpful information for spinners, and a fabulous shop. And there is so many colours in it. Can you see that bright sort of aqua green there? There's quite a bit of it, but then you obviously putting colours on the top, and I'm so pleased with this. I got it nice and thin-ish. I'm still not a brilliantly consistent spinner, so I don't know if you can see the strands there, but oh, I'm so pleased with it. It looks really good and well done, and like actual wool, you know. Oh, I see this look. I'll wear my sunglasses. And anyway, yeah, so I spun this on the big wheel on my Fantasia, and I loved every second of it. But I am so old now that I hit my hips treadling, so I've had to have a little break from that too. But before I had a break from that, I did finish these 2 other skeins. This one's all been washed and finished and done. And I did not enjoy spinning this at all, but I'm really pleased with the final result. There's some sort of more hair quality to it. I wish I could find the frickin' thing, but this is it's a 2-ply, and it's fairly thin. I think I'm going to make something for Ari out of it. It'll have to be, it's not scratchy, it's super soft, but it's quite fluffy. It's a little bit thick and thin, because it's pretty thin though, that look. It's probably 4-ply weight, although it's a 2-ply yarn. Don't get us into that rabbit hole. And there's something like 230 4 meters of this. So there's little slubs in it of sari silk. Can you see there? That's sort of green and slubby big bits, which were really hard for me as a sort of newish spinner to manage. And I also spun this on my nano wheel, which is my little 3D printed e-wheel, my electronic wheel. And I think the problem was this needed more twist, so that when I was, the e-spinner's great for fine wheels but that don't need a lot of twist. They just need a little bit of twist to stay together. So when I was spinning this and just that little bit of twist going in, it kept coming apart all the time, and then sort of pulling it back to get it hooked back up again, it would just drift apart, and I'd have to pull loads back off the bobbin to get it reattached and going, and I just found it arduous. I applied it on the big wheel, and that was a much more pleasant experience. And I just think the problem there was user error. I shouldn't have been spinning it on the little wheel. I should have spun it from the beginning on the big wheel, and I think I would have enjoyed it a load more. That's fibre from Cat and Sparrow, and I was in their fibre club for a while, so I've got some more of their fibre still showed up to spin later, and most of it's been lovely. So I don't think it was a problem with fibre. I think it was definitely user error. I chose the wrong tool for the wrong job, which is never ever a good idea. But I'm pleased with it now. It's done. I'm also glad it's done. And I don't think I'm going to knit it anytime soon. I think it's going to have to sit in time out a little bit while it thinks about what it's done. This, however, I wanted to spin something thicker because this is what happens when you're in a new spinner. You can only spin thick, and the idea and the goal is to be able to spin thin enough for sock weight, because you want 3 plies and it's still to be 4 ply in weight, sock weight. And that's the goal. That's like, you're a good spinner if you can spin as thin as possible. But then what happens is you lose the ability to spin thick. You can't do it. So this was, I absolutely wanted to try and get something DK-ish, preferably Aran. And I picked this colour to knit something for Ari because she looks so beautiful in this colour. And the dye on this, which I don't think is going to come across because of my hair and my skin colour and the lighting and stuff, is a proper peaches and cream, and that's actually what it's called, the name of it. It has some very, very slight hints of purple in it, and I managed, it's almost a bulky, it's an Aran weight. And so I did a 2 ply, but then I also did a ply of gold lurex, which is just the most wonderful word ever, isn't it, lurex? And it's fluffy and wonderful. It hasn't had a wash yet, and it's already this fluffy and gorgeous, and I am so super over the moon with it. It's really thick and thin in places, as I try not to go too thin and then not too thick, but I think it's just absolutely beautiful. This is, I can't remember what the fibre is, but it's from Witchcrafty Lady, who is on Etsy and I follow on Instagram, and it's not my first of her fibres that I've spun. It's beautifully prepared and beautifully dyed, and I loved it. So I did this one on the E spinner, and then again plied it on my big wheel, and it was just a joy. It was a joy, and I did it all in 2 evenings, and I just think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to knit Ari yet, but it's definitely going to be something for Ari, because she just looks so lovely in this colour. So there was that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, one of the things that I really, really want is a new Niddy Noddy. Everything to do with spinning sounds fucking hilarious. My spinning wheel has an orifice and an orifice hook. Everything, you know, there's the fingering weight and the light fingering and the heavy fingering, and then there's the Niddy Noddy, and the Niddy Noddy is an absolutely genius bit of kit. So all it is, look, and what you use it for is for making this. How do you get it off there? How do you make it into a big circle that you can twist up into a skein like this, which you have just watched me do. Haha. It's with one of these. So you basically, you loop of yarn around here, and then round here, then round here, then round here, and you keep going round and round and round and round and round, and then you tie it and you end up with this circle ring of yarn. Tie it a lot so that it doesn't become tangled when you wash it, and then it will stay lovely until you're ready to use it, and you can either wind it into a cake or a bowl or do whatever you want to do with it, because you don't knit from the skein, it will be a tangled nightmare. But this is a genius bit of kit. But mine, I bought mine when I was just spindle spinning. So a spindle is a length of wool with a hook on one side, and you just twist it and then draft your yarn up, wind it on, twist it, wind your yarn up. So I would never spin huge amounts on my spindle, so this half a yard niddy noddy was fine. But now I'm spinning larger quantities, I need a bigger one because this is just becoming frustrating. And as you can see, these are not twisting into nice skeins because they're too squat sort of thing. Anyway, so that's on my birthday list. But I did just want to talk about this really fantastic bit of kit because it's just so simple. It's a bit of wood with an opposite bit like this. Lots of people can make them themselves out of bits of tube, like with plumber's corners on and stuff. I'm not that person, but also I love the look of this, the wooden one, and the turns. It looks like the spokes on stairs, spindles on stairs, and I think it's beautiful. So it's my birthday coming up soon, so I've asked the hubby for some comics and a new niddy noddy because that's how I roll. So yeah, that's what I've been knitting, that's what I've been spinning. I bought another couple of braids from Hilltop Fibre that are going to go on the wheel next, and I'm really looking forward to that. And also really just enjoying some sock knitting at the minute. I'm really enjoying it, and really things that I don't have to concentrate very hard on are key for me, whatever that may be, whether I'm reading or watching or crafting. So that's it. That's all I've got to talk to you about this time, I think. Feels like a lot of intense talking, but I guess that's the point. So I'm not going to apologise for it. So I hope that anything that I've listened to or read or crafted has appealed to you or inspired you in some way or made you furious. Let me know. Talk to us in the comments on YouTube, on Twitter. I'm at Stace_W, on Instagram. I'm at Whittle Waffle, I think. Pretty sure I am. So yeah, they're places that you can find me. I'll post links to the Comic Beat Insider that I was on, and also you should go and check them out anyway because they're great. And I'll post links to Geek Syndicate and as many other things as I can find, and I'll probably do all of that on the blog. I do put like trailers and clips and links to authors' websites and all that sort of stuff on the blog. So if you haven't checked the blog out, do go and have a look at it. It is worthwhile. I put links to shops where I've bought wool and yarn, fibre and all that sort of stuff. I do put those links on there as well. So if you are interested in buying anything from any of the people that I've talked about, then you'll find links to all of those on the blog, which is whittlewaffle.blogspot.co.uk. I wish I could put the theme tune in for you, Gillian. If I could work out how to do it, I would, I promise. So yeah, thanks for sticking with us, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.